Hello students, welcome to the class. In this video, we will be looking into the grammar component of Unit 1 and 2 of Semester 4 syllabus, and this is about the sentence structures of simple, complex and compound sentences. Now, depending on the type of the clauses, sentences can be divided into three types: simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. Now, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words with a subject and a verb and, of course, a thought. If it's a complete thought, then it's called an independent clause. And if a clause do not have a complete thought, then it can be called as a dependent clause. Now let's straight away go into what is a simple sentence. Now a simple sentence contains one independent clause. That means it has one subject, it has one verb, and it has one complete thought. Let's look at an example. Sohan opened the book. In this sentence, we have Sohan, the subject, opened, the verb, and as you read it, we find it has a completed thought. So Sohan opened the book is an example of a simple sentence. Sometimes simple sentences can have a longer subject. Like here, the books and files were sorted. We find that the subject here, the books and files, is a compound subject, and the verb is were. Let's look at another example. Preeti sighed and stopped. We find the subject is Preeti, and sighed and stopped is a compound verb. We find two verbs together. Okay, so what we understand is whether the subject is a compound subject or a verb is a compound verb. If a sentence has just one subject and one verb and one complete thought, then it is a simple sentence. In other words, we call that a simple sentence has only one independent clause. Now let's look at this example. The happy children played all afternoon in the sun. Sometimes the sentence can be longer, but still, in this long sentence also, we have just one subject, the happy children, and only one verb, that is played. Now, simple sentences can be expanded by adding adjectives, adverbs, or phrases. For example, the sentence Asha talked is a simple sentence, one subject and one verb. And Asha talked excitedly, we have the addition of an adverb. The man entered the mud hut. Having crossed the river, the man entered the mud hut. We find that here the subject is simply the man and the verb is entered. In spite of looking like having verbs in the first section, having crossed the river, it simply acts as an adjective to the man. So we need to remember the simple sentences consist of only one independent clause, that is, one subject, one verb, and one complete thought. Now let's move on to the compound sentence. So a compound sentence can have two or more independent clauses, whereas the simple subject has only one independent clause a compound sentence can have two independent clauses. That means we will be having in a compound sentence two subjects and two verbs. And these two clauses, independent clauses, are joined by a coordinating conjunction. Now let's look at these examples. Now we find here two simple sentences. Sohan opened the book. Sohan read a chapter. These two simple sentences, which are independent clauses, are now joined together with the help of the coordinating conjunction and made into a compound sentence. Sohan opened the book and he read a chapter. So we find the first independent clause, Sohan opened the book, because Sohan is the subject and opened is the verb. And the second independent clause, he the subject and read the verb. And both of these independent clauses are joined by the coordinating conjunction and in between. Right. So coordinating conjunctions are very few, and they can be remembered by using this acronym fanboys: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Now let's look at some more examples of compound sentences formed by using the coordinate conjunctions fanboys. I have not met Ravi, nor have I met Rakesh. In this sentence, you find there are two independent clauses. I have not met Ravi, I have met Rakesh. And both of these independent clauses are joined by the conjunction nor. Similarly, I like tea, but I don't like coffee. Two independent clauses. I like tea, I don't like coffee. It was very hot, so I put on a cap. It was very hot. One independent clause, I put on a cap. The other independent clause joined by the conjunction so. He was wearing a helmet, yet he was fine. So, to wrap up, now compound sentences consist of two independent clauses. That means they will be having two clauses or two subjects, two verbs, and of course, both of these clauses with complete thought. So, coordinating conjunctions show equal importance to the two independent clauses. Now, there are some other conjunctions called as correlative conjunctions or conjunctive adverbs, which are also used for making compound sentences like either or, neither nor, not only but also, therefore, still, and so on. Now, let's move on to what is a complex sentence. Now, a complex sentence will have one independent clause and one dependent clause. That means it will have an independent clause, a subject, verb, and a complete thought, and it will also have a dependent clause. That means maybe a subject and a verb, but not a completed thought. Let's look at an example. When he won the prize, everyone clapped. Here we have that everyone clapped is an independent clause. Subject, everyone clapped, the verb, and a complete thought. Whereas, when he won the prize, this clause is a dependent clause because though it has he, which is the subject, and won, the verb, but still, when he won the prize is not a complete thought. Let's look at another example. I put on my cap because it was very hot. I put on my cap is the first clause. Because it was very hot is the second clause. Here too, we find that I put on my cap is the independent clause. Because it was very hot is the dependent clause. You might be observing that the dependent clause always starts with the conjunction or subordinating. One more thing to remember is the clause can come at the beginning of the sentence or it can follow the independent clause in a complex sentence. If we are starting with the dependent clause, then we need to put a comma after that. So subordinate clauses or the dependent clauses cannot make sense by themselves and they need to be linked to a main clause. They do the work of an adjective, an adverb, or a noun in a complex sentence but do not function like a finite verb. So, hence, as they do the job of an adjective, an adverb, or a noun in a complex sentence, they are also called as adjectival, adverbial, or noun clauses. Example, the man who lives next door is my friend's cousin. In this complex sentence, who lives next door is the dependent clause and it is also acting like an adjective, hence is called as an adjective clause. Similarly, he fell down while climbing the bus. The independent clause is he fell down and the dependent clause is while climbing the bus, which is acting like an adverb, so called as adverbial. Now these are some conjunctions which are used in forming the complex sentences. They're also called as subordinating conjunctions: after, although, as, if, because, before, so that, then, that, unless, where, while, when, and so on. Okay, now let's do a test for ourselves. Manoj knew lots about Star Wars. What kind of a sentence is this? Yes, that's true. It has just one subject and one verb and a complete thought. Hence, it's a simple sentence. Now look at the next sentence. Although Kiran was behind time, he seemed fine. What type of sentence is this? That's right. It has two clauses and he seemed fine is an independent clause, whereas although Kiran was behind time is a dependent clause. Hence, it's a complex sentence. The baby was hungry, so it cried. You're right, it's a compound sentence because it has two independent clauses. The baby was hungry, it cried. Hence, it's a compound sentence. Right. So in this video, we learnt about the basics about simple, complex, and compound sentences. In the next video, we'll be looking at how to transform these sentences from one to another. Thank you for watching. In case of any questions or queries, you can approach us on the data given. Thank you. Have a good day.